There is a silence in the center of the world. It is not an empty silence, but a heavy, listening stillness. The kind that hangs over a cathedral before a prayer, or a canyon before a storm. This is a land locked away by geography, a fortress of stone raised by the collision of continents. To the north, the endless steppes of Kazakhstan. To the south, the crushing heights of the Pamirs. To the east, the rising dragon of China. And here, in the cradle of these giants, lies a country that exists more in the vertical than the horizontal. Kyrgyzstan. It is a place where the earth itself seems to be breathing. A landscape of fracture and elevation, where the tectonic violence of the past has been frozen into a terrible, jagged beauty. Here, history is not written in books, but in the layers of sediment, the drift of clouds, and the memory of the wind. The journey begins not in the cities, but in the spine of the land, the Tian Shan, the celestial mountains. They rise like a white wall against the blue indifference of the sky. These are young mountains, geologically speaking, born of the violent embrace between India and Eurasia, a collision that is still happening, millimeter by millimeter, pushing these peaks ever closer to the stratosphere. The light here is different. At this altitude, the atmosphere is thin, stripped of haze, rendering every crag and glacier with a hyper-real clarity. It is a world of monochrome extremes, the blinding white of snow, the deep, bruised charcoal of granite, and the piercing azure of the sky. Descending from this frozen roof, the land does not gentle. It merely changes its texture. Below the snowline, the valleys open up like great green wounds in the rock. And resting in the center of this fractured earth is an anomaly, a miracle of hydrology, Issyk-Kul, the warm lake. It appears first as a hallucination, a vast cobalt eye staring unblinkingly at the sun. It is an inland sea, so deep and so saline that it never freezes, even when the winter air snaps the branches of the spruce trees. The water is heavy, ancient. It holds secrets that the surface rarely betrays. Drift closer to the northern shore. Look past the reflection of the clouds. Down there, in the silent gloom, lies the memory of a civilization. 600 years ago, this was a thriving settlement, a pulse point on the Silk Road. Merchants speaking a dozen tongues walked streets that are now paved with silt. Then, the earth shuddered, a geological heave that cracked the foundation of the world, and the water rose. Now, millstones that once ground wheat for caravan bread lie half buried in the mud. It is a city of ghosts, preserved in a liquid tomb, a reminder that in this volatile land, humanity is merely a tenant. Moving east, the landscape shifts its palette. The blue of the water gives way to the rusted violence of jetty Oghuz, the seven bulls. Here, the geology turns visceral. These are not gray granite peaks, but cliffs of red sandstone, oxidized and eroded into shapes that defy logic. They loom over the valley floor, massive and brooding. The wind has carved them into ridges that look like the rippling muscles of sleeping beasts. Legend says these were once 7 bulls, slaughtered by a jealous Khan to spite his unfaithful wife. The story goes that the blood of the slain animals washed the valley, staining the rocks forever. And when the rain falls here, darkening the stone to a deep crimson, it is easy to believe that the earth is still bleeding. The air smells of iron and wet dust. It is a violent landscape, yet there is a profound peace in its shadow. the piece of a story that has already ended. Song-Kul. There is no horizon here. The earth simply curves away into the sky. This is the summer pasture, the Jai-Lu. At 3,000 meters, the air is crisp enough to taste. The silence is absolute, broken only by the tearing sound of grass being grazed by horses. In the distance, white yurts sit like pearls scattered on green velvet. They are temporary structures for a permanent people. The nomads here do not fight the landscape, they move with it. When the winter snows threaten, they will dismantle their homes and vanish, leaving no scar on the earth. Leaving the high pastures, the road turns south, toward the Chinese border. The landscape becomes harder, more austere. The grass fades, replaced by gray shale and gravel. Here, hidden in a fold of the Atbashi range, stands Tash Rabat. It is a fortress of solitude, a caravanserai built entirely of stone, half buried in the hillside. From a distance, it looks like a natural formation, a dark geometric growth emerging from the mountain. Step inside. The temperature drops 10 degrees. The air is still and heavy with the smell of damp stone and centuries of soot. 500 years ago, this was a sanctuary. Caravans laden with silk, porcelain, and spices would stop here, sheltering from the bandits and the blizzards of the Torogart Pass. Far to the west, in the Fergana Valley, the land remembers a different kind of ancient life. Arslan Bab. The air here changes. It becomes humid, rich, heavy with oxygen and decay. This is the largest walnut forest in the world. These trees are titans. Their trunks are gnarled and twisted, covered in moss that glows emerald in the filtered sunlight. Some are 1,000 years old. Their roots grip the earth like the fingers of old men. They say Alexander the Great rested his armies here. Wounded and weary, his soldiers ate the nuts and found their strength returning. They took the seeds back to Greece, planting the children of this forest across Europe. Finally, the journey descends to the ancient south, to Osh. This is a city older than Rome, a city that has been continuously inhabited for 3,000 years. And rising from its center is the sacred rock, Suleiman II. It is a jagged fin of limestone, erupting from the flat valley floor. For millennia, pilgrims have climbed these slopes. They come to touch the stone, to slide down the polished rock faces in hopes of fertility, to pray in the small caves that pit the mountainside. The heat here is different. It is the dry, dusty heat of the desert. From the summit, you look down on the bazaar, a sprawling maze of tarps and stalls that has existed in one form or another since the Bronze Age. The noise of the market drifts up, a chaotic symphony of commerce that has never stopped. Babur, the founder of the Mughal Empire, sat on this rock. He looked out over the valley and dreamed of India. This mountain is a pivot point of history, a place where conquerors paused to catch their breath before changing the world. Kyrgyzstan is a paradox. It is a land of crushing weight, the weight of mountains, of glaciers, of stone architecture that defies time. Yet, it is also a land of lightness, of felt yurts that can be moved in an hour, of nomadic paths that leave no trace, of clouds that touch the ground. It teaches us that endurance is not about resisting the forces of nature, but about yielding to them. The mountains do not move, so the people must. The winter does not negotiate, so the culture adapts. It is a country that strips you of your pretensions. Standing on the shores of Issyk-Kul, or under the shadow of the 7 bulls, you realize that you are not the protagonist of this story. You are merely a witness. The land was here before you, and it will remain long after you are gone, silent and sublime, watching the centuries pass like clouds over the peaks. Subscribe and follow our channel for more exploration journeys.